Welcome to Dan Perkins' podcast called What's on My Mind. Always provocative and thought-provoking on many different subjects, here's Dan Perkins.
130 nations have no vaccine. I'm Dan Perkins, and that's what's on my mind today. Do you know that 66% of the world's nations, 130 out of 195, have yet to give one shot of COVID-19 vaccine to their people? According to the World Health Organization, the world currently has 7.6 billion people, and as of March 10th, only 4.2% of the world population has been vaccinated. That's about equivalent to the size of the United States population. We have been told about 2 strains of virus from England and Africa. We are not aware of any additional strains, but that's just because we haven't been told. It doesn't mean there aren't any out there. The vaccine manufacturers are looking into the original vaccine's effectiveness against these 2 mutations and are trying to adjust the formula to compensate for the new strains. We were told that the combination of natural immunity and vaccines would drive us to herd immunity and in turn bring the virus and the pandemic under control. In a speech the World Health Organization Director General gave on October the 12th, 2020 on herd immunity, he raised some concerns about the effectiveness of natural immunity in bringing the pandemic under control. He challenged the idea of achieving immunity, herd immunity, by simply letting the virus spread. He also argued the concept of herd immunity is basically used for vaccinations in determining how much of the population needs the vaccine. Never in the history of public health has herd immunity been used as a strategy for responding to an outbreak, let alone a pandemic. He went on to say it is scientifically and ethically problematic. To the best of my knowledge, I have not been able to find any historical data on mRNA used on a widespread viral outbreak. Medscape, a website for medical professionals, reported as of March 11, 2021, that 3,039 healthcare workers have died in the United States from COVID-19. On their website, medscape.com, they asked their members this question: how concerned are you about adverse events related to the vaccines? In 20 hours, they received 340 responses from medical professionals. Here are some of their answers. I will not use the names, just the profession and their response. You can sign in and see all 340 or more if you want at medscape.com. First is a registered nurse, quote, "As a woman, I have the right to terminate a pregnancy, but I am forced to receive an experimental vaccine. What sense does that make?" End of quote. Another registered nurse said, quote, "I am a 70-year-old retired registered nurse. I do not take vaccines. I do keep a healthy immune system. I take vitamin C, vitamin D3, and zinc. I take them always. I will not take any of the COVID-19 vaccines." End of quote. Our last registered nurse says, quote, "I'm very concerned about the short and long-term effects of this mRNA vaccine and granting immunity for all the vaccine producers. I take responsibility for my own health, keeping my immune system high, a family practice MD. I'm worried about the long-term effects, which are still unknown. I hope everything goes okay." And finally, an internal medicine MD says, quote, very concerned, especially since we don't know the long-term side effects of either the virus or the vaccine, end of quote. As I went through all 340 answers, comments, and concerns, the most often issue raised was the concern about the vaccine's long-term safety record. Unfortunately, we will not know the answer to that question for several years to come. If there is a problem, the world will have inoculated and vaccinated billions of people with and the vaccine companies are protected against litigation. If there is a problem, the injured people will depend upon the governments that funded the research and were responsible for the distribution to the people for help. With the most recent passage of the $1.9 trillion relief bill, we'll have spent over $6 trillion so far on COVID-19 stimulus, and most likely more to come. Business Today reports the cost so far around the world has already been $11.7 trillion. They broke down the money spent this way. Out of the global cost, 9.8 trillion, 83%, has been spent by 36 rich nations against just 42 billion, or 0.4%, by 59 low-income countries to cope with the fallout from COVID-19 pandemic. I wonder if those poorer nations may turn out to be better off for not getting the shots. If we have a problem, can you imagine how much it will cost to take care of billions of people, perhaps for the rest of their lives? I hope I'm wrong, and unfortunately, only time will tell. At some point in time, we will have to have a study and a discussion on the decisions and the directives of both the governments and the healthcare professionals to see if we greatly overreacted to COVID-19. This is Dan Perkins, and that's what's on my mind.